What's up everybody, it's your friendly neighborhood DoolieRay, and this is the Champedex, a series in which I take a champion, look at their abilities and use in the game, tell you how to use that character, and then give them a bit of a rating so that they can be compared to other characters in this game to try to help you with your rank up decisions, and just hopefully help you overall with any champion that you may pull out of a crystal. Today we're going to be taking a look at Stark Spidey. Per requests from some viewers of this channel, I was a bit surprised actually, because for me, I've had Stark Spidey for a while, and I've always been interested in him. He's undeniably an amazing champion, and most people know it, but not everybody knows how to use him, so my job here today is to teach you how to properly use Stark Spidey, and then show you how awesome he can be. So let's go ahead and get into this. We're going to start things off talking about damage, which is not necessarily the most important ability a character can have, but for me, and I think many other people in the community, it's just fun to see some big numbers when you're using a character, to see the health bar of your opponent drop. It feels good, it feels right, and when it comes to Stark Spidey, you're not going to find many better characters when it comes to dealing large amounts of damage in a short amount of time. The way you're going to be getting these crazy amounts of damage is through Spidey's Smack Talk ability, which has to do with these poise charges that you see up under his health bar here. They look like that. Each individual one gives you extra attack rating, and you can build them up to a maximum of 10. You build these up by evading your opponent's attack. This includes evading special attacks, using dexterity to get out of the way of your opponent. You back off a little bit, and you build up those charges. You get lots and lots and lots of damage. So if you take a look here, this is what Spidey looks like when he has low poise charges against Winter Soldier versus when he has 10 poise charges against Winter Soldier. And as you can see, the amount of damage that he does with the poise charges is so incredibly high that whenever you use Stark Spidey, you want to be sure to evade your opponent enough to build up those poise charges. You don't always need 10. That's important to keep in mind, and sometimes what's really difficult about using Stark Spidey, and why he does require a little bit of skill, you sort of have to finesse how you get these poise charges, because it's very easy to get backed into a corner when you keep on dexterity away from your opponent. So just keep in mind that as you're using Spidey, you don't want to get backed into a corner. So if you do have to go on the offensive for a second, instead of building up poise charges, you can go ahead and do that, push your opponent into a corner just to be safe, so that you don't get backed into a corner yourself and get punished for it. This is where Stark Spidey mainly gets his damage, and it's a very simple mechanic, but it takes a bit of skill to use, and for newer players to the game, it is a little bit hard to understand, so hopefully I explained it well there. And we'll move on to the sustainability category, and when it comes to Stark Spidey, he does also have a bit of sustainability. For some champions, of course, regeneration is very important, and it's very helpful as well, but for Stark Spidey, he doesn't have any regeneration, but that doesn't mean that his sustainability is bad. He's also not like Luke Cage, where he can take a lot of damage, take a lot of hits, and still be fine. He has his own special sustainability that revolves around him being able to evade his opponents. Stark Spidey is a glass cannon, meaning he can hit really hard, but he doesn't have a lot of health for you to mess around with and make mistakes. And thankfully, he's got this ability called Stark Tech AI that helps you to evade your opponent. So when your opponent uses a special attack, Stark Spidey will activate his Stark Tech AI, and it gives you an extra 60% chance to evade all incoming attacks for the special attack. And this is very helpful against some specific champions, but just in general, I would say this is a very, very helpful mechanic that allows you to avoid a lot of damage that you could potentially take. The only thing that you have to watch out for is if you get hit by a heavy attack or by a cosmic champion, the Stark Tech AI shuts down for 10 seconds, and you will not gain that 60% chance to evade when your opponents use a special attack. It's a bit of an extra tidbit, but it's important to keep in mind in case that does happen to you, but for the most part, you're going to have this Stark Tech AI active on your opponent's special attacks, and it will save you, and his sustainability is a level 2 because of that. And so we move on to power control, which Stark Spidey also has use for. You think he has enough abilities already? No, he's got more. So this is a pretty simple mechanic, easy to use. All you have to do is use a heavy attack, and you'll drain 45% of your opponent's power. This does activate a cooldown of 30 seconds, so you can only do it once every 30 seconds, but it's such an important and helpful tool to have in certain situations if you accidentally push an opponent to too high of power, or you just want to knock them down a little bit, power meter wise. This heavy attack can be helpful for many, many different situations. And so we move on to Stark Spidey's awakened ability, and one of the best things that I appreciate about Stark Spidey is that he doesn't actually need to be awakened to be good. You still get the poise charges when he's unawakened, and that's where you get your large amounts of damage. He's also still got the power drain, and he's still got the evasion as well. So his awakened ability is just kind of a cherry on the top for the character. It's not super necessary, but it is very nice to have. His awakened ability has two different parts. When you're above 50% health, each charge of poise that you have gives him an extra amount of critical rating, which is very helpful in lots of fights because you will be getting more crits, meaning you'll be dealing more damage. So this does add a bit of damage to him, and it's just a nice bit of utility to have. The second part of his awakened ability is called Great Responsibility. He gains an extra 7% chance to evade everything, and every charge of poise that you have on him gives you extra block proficiency as well. So when he's above 50%, it's about dealing lots and lots of damage. When he's below 50%, it's kind of about being able to take a bit more damage and being able to survive. So for his awakened ability, he gets a level 2. Brings his total score up to 9, and we'll move on to just talking about his utility in general. And man, Stark Spidey has so much going on. His utility is amazing. This is where we're going to talk about the taunt debuff that he puts on the opponent. The way you put a taunt on your opponent is to get 5 hits in your combo when you have a poise charge. It's that simple. Getting 5 hits in your combo will convert a poise charge into a taunt, and what the taunt does is it reduces your opponent's attack by 40%, and it gives them an extra 70% chance to activate a special attack. And this works well in combination with the Stark Tech AI. When the opponent throws a special attack, you're probably going to evade it. You have a very good chance of evading it. So the taunt debuff plus your ability to evade special attacks together is just an amazing combo, and it makes Stark Spidey amazing. This debuff can also be refreshed without having to use another poise charge. All you have to do is allow Stark Spidey to idle for 1 second, which means you don't attack your opponent, you don't block, you just stand still for 1 second. You'll see an animation, and you'll see that the taunt debuff refreshes. It's a bit hard sometimes if your opponent is aggressive to be able to refresh the taunt, but it's possible to do, and it's a very helpful piece of utility. Stark Spidey's special attacks are also pretty useful utility-wise. His special one has a 50% chance to stun the opponent for 2 seconds, and if you have the Stark Tech AI active, which you do most of the time, it's a 100% chance to stun, and this can allow you to push your opponent away, stun them for a second if you need to power drain them, and it can just be very helpful. His special 2, though, is where you're going to get tons of damage. He puts shock debuffs on the opponent that deal damage over time, and it just hits incredibly hard as well. Now keep in mind, everything that you see here is my Stark Spidey as a 5-star at rank 5. This is him maxed out. So your Stark Spidey, unless he's at rank 5 as a 5-star, is not going to be dealing this much damage, but for the level that he's at, he will be dealing a lot of damage compared to other characters of his level. And then his special 3 is also very useful in certain situations. He puts what's called an ensnare debuff onto his opponent. This debuff lasts for 18 seconds, and opponents that have it have a 30% reduced ability accuracy, and they can't trigger evade as well. So when you fight against Spider-Man, say, when I went into the Labyrinth of Legends, Spider-Man, who's a very annoying evade champion, I was able to put the ensnare debuff onto him and stop his evade, pretty much. So as far as utility goes, Stark Spidey has many different uses in the game, and he's just an amazing character. Can we agree on that? Well, let's move on to Synergies. Since Stark Spidey is a newer character, he does have those fancy schmancy pants new synergies where they're unique to him and they work between him and somebody else. So if you want to take a look, he's got a synergy with Vulture here that gives him a 15% ability accuracy boost while his Stark Tech AI is active. So against special attacks, you got that 60% chance to evade plus 15% here. So that's pretty nice, a nice bonus to have. With Iron Man and Hulkbuster, his AI reboots 30% faster, which is a little helpful, but in my opinion, it's not that important. And then we have a synergy with Miles Morales and Kamala Khan, which in my opinion is the best synergy that he has here. His stun, shock, and ensnare debuffs last 30% longer, and what's really important here is the stun. Against hard-to-fight nodes like Limber, or when your stun needs to last a little bit longer, this synergy here can really help you out, and when I did my Legends run, when I did my Labyrinth run, I made sure to have Miles Morales on my team so that Stark Spidey's stuns would last just a tiny bit longer, and that is a very helpful piece of utility in lots of situations. And he does have synergies with other characters, but since we're just looking at Stark Spidey here, we're just going to look at the synergies that he has as a character and not the synergies that other characters may have with him. So let's go ahead and move on now to his use in AQ. For AQ, Spidey is, of course, amazing. Once again, I mean, he is a glass cannon, so for lane clearing, you've just got to keep an eye out for his low health. So as you're doing more fights, you're probably going to be taking more damage. If you mess up, even just a tiny bit, it can really cost you, maybe in potions. Just, he doesn't have a lot of health for you to mess around with. I say it time and time again. Sorry to be repeating that, you just gotta keep it in mind. But other than that, he is amazing for Alliance Quest with all of his utility and all of his damage. He's so good. I've been running map 6 with my new alliance, and I've soloed Dormammu when he's not fully noted, but he has a few nodes still on him. I've soloed him with Stark Spidey before, and I use him when I can in Alliance Quest, and he's just an amazing character. So I rate him as a level 3 for Alliance Quest, and I don't know a lot of people that actually end up using him in Alliance Quest, but if you have him and you're not using him for anything else, I mean, he usually gets used for like Alliance War or something else, but for Alliance Quest, he is an amazing champion. For Alliance War offense, you're not going to find many better characters than Stark Spidey. So when I take Stark Spidey into fights, it takes about 14 to maybe 22 hits to take down an opponent on a regular node, and this is really helpful because the less hits you have to do, the shorter the fight is, the less of a chance you have of making a big mistake and messing up. Although Stark Spidey does have that small amount of health that you have to watch out for. The glass cannon thing is always going to come back, be a bit of a weakness that Stark Spidey has, but the damage that he does is just so good for Alliance War. He is one of the best characters you could possibly use. For Alliance War defense, Stark Spidey is actually also pretty good. He usually just gets rated for his offensive abilities, but he does have some defensive abilities as well, because he does have just a 3% chance to evade any attack. He's kind of like Black Widow in that way, although Black Widow does seem to evade more, just because Black Widow is evil. Plus, he's got that 60% chance to evade on any special attack that you throw. So when you do fight against Stark Spidey, if you ever end up in a matchup against him, you want to be sure to use a heavy attack or a cosmic champion to take out a Stark Tech AI, and then you'll be safer to throw special attacks. And you also want to play him like any other evade champion that you would, where you don't want to do a full 5-hit combo, you want to do 4 hits, because if you do the 5th hit and he evades on that, he can punish you, and because he hits so hard, if he hits you, you're losing health hardcore. So just watch out for that, and yeah, Stark Spidey's pretty good for defense. And then for questing in general, Stark Spidey is amazing. One of the best champions you could have. Does so much damage. He's very good for hard fights against maybe the Collector, bosses. He's not always the best for lane clearing, since he does have that health problem, but he's such a good champion to use in almost any matchup that you'll find, that I can't rate Stark Spidey anything less than a level 3. So if you want to take a look here, I have made a nice little chart of the strengths and weaknesses that Stark Spidey has, just kind of a total summary of the character, his strengths, his damage, his utility, he's got power control, he's got the evasion, he's got all that good stuff. As far as weaknesses go, he's got that low health that is always kind of going to come back to bite him if you manage to mess up and get hit. So in the end, Stark Spidey's total score is 25, and that of course puts him above Dr. Voodoo and Luke Cage on this chart here. If you'll remember, S-Class is 23 and above, and Stark Spidey is an S-Class hero.
Who's that champion? It's Archangel!
So there you go. I hope this was a helpful video for you. If you didn't know how to use Stark Spidey before, hopefully you know how to use him now. And if you have any questions or anything, you're welcome to leave those in the comments down below. I'd also really appreciate it if you'd like this video. If you actually liked it, don't like it if you didn't like it. I won't make you do anything, but if you did like it, dude, I'd appreciate a like on this video. Until I see you next though, you hang in there. May the RNG be with you, and peace out.